How you doing, y'all? Welcome to Confidence. On today's podcast, honestly, I think I had 3 topics, but to be honest, I had to eliminate it to 2 because I just felt like the 2 were just so fucking good. The question I'm going to answer today is, why do I want someone, but once I have them, I don't want them anymore? Isn't that the $1 million motherfucking question? Second one is, we're going to talk about the difficulties of distancing yourself from people you care about, but you don't align with anymore. Whew. These are some deep topics. Look at you. Round of applause to the audience for coming up with some fucking questions. Congratulations. All right, so let's talk about me first. Like I said, you know me, I'm always selfish. Right now I'm in sweatpants. I just smoked my 7th cigarette of the day. And yeah, you know what? The distancing question is very interesting. And the reason I say that is, just got off the FaceTime with, the situation. I'm gonna call her the situation. Currently there's Vaseline, not Vaseline. What's the other thing that's not Vaseline? Is it Vaseline? What's the stuff you put on your lips? And then it says like for cracks and burns. Is that Vaseline? Anyways, took some Vaseline, put it on my hand, and then I put it on my dick. And yep, you got it right. Your boy went to town with the left hand, and now I'm sitting here in front of you. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm fucking, for some reason, podcasting right now. But what I've realized is I kind of like podcasting super late at night because I'm fucking delusional. And I could just really be freely who I am. And honestly, when I watch it back, I'm like, wow, this is insane. But my whole point is I feel like I could just be freely myself. And that's like really my goal right now is like, you know what? I don't want to lie to you. It's hard because here's the thing, right? There's a lot of stuff I don't sometimes want to tell you guys. You know that, right? Like there's some times where like I'm going throughout my day and I'm like, damn, I got to really tell people this. Like, cause like what happens is I'm a human being, right? Shit happens, like regular human being shit happens. But the problem is, most people, we wear a mask. I think everybody does. Don't we all? I mean, let's be honest. If you go back to the last podcast, by the way, everybody loved the last podcast. Thank you for the nice messages and the words. I'm happy that it resonated. But I talked a lot about ego and, being non-judgmental and being non-attached and how I'm feeling so good. It's funny. Like I went right from that podcast. And then this week, I don't know what happened. I really, so as you guys know, I always rate my mood every day, 0 to 10. I want to say that the last 5 days, if I could recall, have gone something like 7.5, 8, 8.5, 8. I think today was a 9, or yesterday was a 9. Today was about 9.5. So like, hey, listen, there's some improvement. Something's happening. But I'll tell you something, even after that podcast, I'm feeling good. Again, I'm unattached. But then you really get unattached, right? And then I stopped working. And that's not true because I did work. But what happens is, it's funny. Like, this is going to sound very strange. Okay, I want you guys to know something about me. I've noticed a pattern in my life when it comes to my work. When I'm really kicking ass at work, I'm reading a lot of books on self-confidence and I'm reading a lot of books on business. When I read a lot of books on spirituality, it's funny because I feel like my work deteriorates. And what's interesting about that is because I feel like there's just this aspect in spirituality. It's kind of just like letting go of the expectations and just like kind of going with the flow and like not giving a fuck. Like, woo, you know what I'm saying? Like spirituality. I totally just disregarded the fact that I told you I just nutted on FaceTime like 15 minutes ago. We'll get back to that in a second. But my point is, whenever I'm in my woo-woo era, you know what I mean? My fucking spirituality, my spiritual fucking people, my fucking weirdos fucking doing yoga and shit. That's how I feel when I read these, these fucking books. But it just kind of seems like I take my foot off the gas pedal of life a little bit. It's like I become content and like, yeah, I'm happy, but then I get kind of sad because I was like, I kind of like going at 1,000,000 miles per hour. I kind of like, you know what I'm saying, kicking some ass. And I'm not saying that, just because you're spiritual doesn't mean it just means you're lazy. That's not true. I guess it's just the headspace that you're in. It's like the stuff that I read on a day-to-day basis, it matters. I always tell people this all the time, actually, too. Like, to me, reading is like, there's so many, if you really think about it, there's so many fucking books, there's so many authors, there's so many people, and again, writing about the same topics, whatever. But to me, reading is sometimes less about the actual knowledge acquired, which, don't get me wrong, very important. But it also is about the way that it makes you feel in the moment that you're reading it. You get what I'm saying? Because you think about it like food. Like, if you don't eat healthy, right? Or I don't know, you just kind of eat like shit. I feel like, I don't feel as good, right? I kind of feel like shit. I kind of look like shit a little bit. But what happens is if like 2 weeks later, I start eating healthy, right? Or maybe just more whole foods or something. I don't know what healthy is anymore. Your body can change to that moment. And you understand what I'm saying? My whole point is this. Just because you read a book 2 years ago, the likelihood that it's affecting you now, like, yeah, maybe. Again, yes. Is there a residue from that? Definitely. But for the most part, I feel like reading is more actually about how you feel in the moment. Like, to me, the reading practice is so much less about just acquiring insane amounts of knowledge. Like, don't get me wrong. Again, do I think it like accumulates? Yeah, for sure. But, it's just one of those things where I think it's really also affects you in the present moment. You get what I'm saying? So I kind of look at it like that, right? If I'm eating healthy, if I'm reading books that are aligned with my goals, then I'm moving towards those more. But again, I could be reading something that maybe takes me away from my quote unquote, my goals, my business goals, right? Again, my spirituality goals, maybe not. But with that being said, like, I've been reading a lot about ego and all those kinds of things. And again, letting go of the judgment, kind of just living in my, my non-judgmental world, my non-egoic world. But then what happens is again, some of the things that you were striving for so fucking hard, sometimes you're just not hustling as hard because almost just like, I'm chilling. You know what I'm saying? Like life's good, whatever. You're like content. But with that being said, this last few days has been very interesting for me because again, it's like I've been happy and I've been like content, but I also feel like my productivity has taken a hit. I also feel like weirdly burnt out. You know what I'm saying? Like weirdly, like just, I don't know. I feel like I've like lost my excitement for maybe some of the things that I was doing and just even my life in general. Honestly, what really happened this week that was really tough for me is, obviously again, I was supposed to be going no contact with this girl. And again, this is what I was talking about not wanting to come on here and tell you guys this stuff because I feel like A, like a broken record. B, I feel like, what I'm saying? Sometimes I'm going in circles with this shit, right? Literally I am. I'm going up and down and left and right, up and down. It's like, 1 week I'm like, oh, I'm not talking to her. The values. I'm like, the fucking values. Come on. And then the next thing it's like, bro, I'm fucking hella sad, and I'm just like, why am I saying no to somebody that I really genuinely love and like? And I think that's for all of us, right? We go through these waves, right? We go through these waves of like, should we call them? Should we tell them that we care? And honestly, I would say that the first topic I really want to touch on is the difficulties of distancing yourself from people you care about and you don't align with anymore. Because to me, that one is just such a tricky topic. And first I want to attack it from a relationship standpoint, and then we'll get to it from like, a friendlier standpoint, I guess, or just like people in your life that don't necessarily belong there. Again, it could be friends, it could be family, whatever. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, again, we want to talk about the difficulties of letting somebody go, right? It's like my situation. It's been so hard for me to really do that. And I think the reason that it's been so hard is just like, it really is a values issue underneath for me. And what I mean by that is it's like the values of love and connection versus, okay, I just don't want to be in your life because we're long distance. So I do this thing where I just completely avoid and go no contact. And it's like, there's no in between. But I guess this is what I want to get to today. I think something that is really important when we're distancing ourselves from somebody or anybody that's not supposed to be in our life, to me, is just infuse the situation with truth. That is the best way to distance yourself from the people that don't belong in your life and actually to strengthen the relationships that really do belong in your life. And what I mean by that is infusing it with truth means Just be really fucking honest with them. Be really fucking honest with yourself about what you genuinely care about. And that is really going to be like your shining light on what you really should be doing. Now, the thing is about that is I feel like our values change, our feelings change. We process things and things start to develop and they move. So I'll give you an example of this week. So, again, I'm reading these spirituality books. I'm feeling good. I let go of the long distance thing. The week before I was like, should I marry her? Should I fucking, tell her to go fucking take a hike? Anyways, I go on a long walk, right? I determine, I'm like, you know what? She's long distance. I don't want to do that, which is true, which is facts. And I'm just like, all right, on that fact alone, I want to let it go. Now, it's different than the other long distance situations I've had because in a weird way, this one, it's hard because this girl is so real and so honest and shows up for me so much. And I think that is something that is really hard. Again, it's kind of like, what I keep feeling like with this girl is kind of like, have you guys ever watched like a movie like Air Bud? You ever heard of Air Bud? Probably not. I don't know if you're Gen Z. But if you're back in the day, Air Bud is like a movie about a golden retriever dog who plays sports. And if I could recall to my childhood, there's a really big scene in my head that I could memorize right now. And essentially, Air Bud, he plays basketball. He's a star basketball player, but he's a dog, right? So it was really weird. But anyways, he has like a relationship with like a boy, right? That's on the team with him, right? They're like best friends or, whatever. But, obviously there's a point in the movie where the dog is kind of like semi ruining the guy's life. I don't know why. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those like, little tiffs between best friends that happens in a movie. Anyways, there's like a scene where I think like they're in like the rain or something and he's like, go away, go home, like go back to where you came from. But it's a golden retriever. Like it's his best friend. He's like telling him this. And again, maybe just in his mind, he just needed some space. I don't know. I forget like the plot. But this is going to sound crazy, but I kind of feel like that with this girl where I'm kind of like, go away. I'm like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. And then I'm like, I think about it after like a week and I'm like, oh shit. Like I just told my best friend to go away. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, wait, what did she even do? And then I look around and I'm like, oh shit, she didn't really do anything. I go through, my week this week and here's what's happening. I just feel very uncomfortable. Like emotionally underneath, I can't operate. You know what I'm saying? I essentially, I rekindled with the girl, right? Remember I was like, oh, I broke the boundary and I opened up to her again. And then we were like, cool, you know what I'm saying? And then I was like, go away again. I did the whole fucking dog thing. I was like, shoo, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't talk to me anymore. Like, I told her that. I said, stop, like fucking, come on, we got to stop fucking talking. But then what happens is like, the problem is there's not really a solid reason. And the reason I say that is I feel like what I'm doing is I'm just running away whenever it gets kind of like really difficult, which it is fucking hard. Again, it is long distance, right? Which is an ass situation. But it's really hard to tell a golden retriever to go take a hike. You know what I'm saying? To like say, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? When you show up and you're just sweet and you're just genuine and you don't fucking stop being genuine, I'm like, damn, and also, I had actually a really deep conversation with Jay this week again. Oh, it was another great conversation. And, you know how back in the day we talked about in this podcast, like at what point is like family and love, like the values of that going to overtake the values of work and making money and, fucking acquiring followers or whatever. And this also goes into the ego spirituality thing. That's like, I think that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, this is like a big fucking cauldron of bullshit that is happening in my belly and in my mind. Because again, I tell her to go away and then I'm reading this stuff about ego. And then I'm like, what is the point of just like getting more followers and more money and more money and more followers and more money? And like, for what? What is the ultimate end for me? And, I feel like, and the conversation I had with Jay was, we were talking about, kind of like in a weird way, like me and him are both like, we're getting into our early 30s. Again, there's no timeline for shit, but you just start hitting those questions in your life where you're like, all right, I know I'm working hard and I know I'm making money, which I'm doing both of those. But, at what point is family going to, step up into my life? At what point do I really say like, all right, like, maybe that part is important. You know what I'm saying? Like, is it really all grind all day, every day, fucking grind, fucking money, bro, I can't do this, I'm not ready, fucking take it slow, bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's hard because, again, I'm not necessarily fully in it to really know how it really feels. But it's hitting that point in life where you're like, at least for me, where I'm like, yo, I just want to be surrounded by genuinely good people. And it's very difficult because when I say that out loud, I'm like, this person really does do that for me. Again, yes, maybe it's long distance, but I guess the whole thing is like, and I guess me and her actually had this conversation tonight where I was like, it's hard because I care about you. And actually the reason that I do tell you to like go away sometimes or not to talk is almost because like, I do also want to protect you a little bit, right? Like I don't necessarily, sometimes I feel like I don't want to fully invest myself because again, it's talking on the phone. We're not seeing each other that much. And if I'm not ready to fully invest myself in a relationship like that, it's hard because I also don't want to hurt you because I respect you a lot and I want to tell you the truth. And I don't want to leave you hanging or give you a promise or make a commitment towards you if I'm not fully in it to win it. But then there's parts of me where like what happens is after I tell her to go away and I'm not talking to her, yo, I'm not dating people. I'm not, how would I say it? Like, it's not like there's other chicks around that like I'm hitting up or like I'm just like, fucking on the side or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? So what ends up happening is like, I tell this girl to go away and then I sit there and I'm like, damn, like what, why was I so rash about feeling that way? And usually it's a moment, right, that it's happening. Like sometimes the boundaries are bad with phone conversations and I think we got to, work on that aspect. But you know what I'm saying? Like, and again, okay, so this weekend, right? Like that was something that was really heavy for me was I really was taking a look at all the connections in my life. And something I haven't necessarily told y'all about, but I'm potentially thinking about moving to LA. And I think the reason that I potentially might want to move is because I feel like I'm hitting this point in Arizona where, I love some of the close friends around me, right? Like I'm like Jay, fucking Blake, like these are my homies, like Vince, Sierra, like my close people, Kaylee, they're in this area and also, some other people as well. I'm not going to list off every single fucking person. But what I'm realizing is like, I don't feel like I have a ton of great connection in my life outside of that. And those people that I just mentioned are my close friends, but they also have their lives where they're doing shit. You know what I'm saying? Like the people that I want to be around, I don't believe I am currently around right now. And I don't necessarily feel very connected to a lot of people. Like, honestly, I like even just to like go out and do something, I really like there's a couple people I would hit up, but I don't want to just hang out with people just to party. Like I want to hang out with people and go out and spend time with people that like, I really appreciate their mind. I appreciate their hustle. I appreciate their grind. I appreciate their confidence. And it's not easy to necessarily find those people. But again, I feel like I'm also hitting my ceiling here in Arizona. I feel like there's definitely a lot of ego-filled creatures out here, to be honest, to keep it real. And I'm sure there's probably a fuck ton in LA for sure. I don't think there's necessarily a place, but also there might be more like-minded people, right? Creators, people doing the stuff that I'm actually doing, which I think I really want to start being around. But again, I think a lot of things are changing for me mentally, right? Again, what do I really want out of my life? And I'm really starting to think about that. Like, do I care about family? Do I want to see things through with this person because they're genuine? And to be honest, I don't think I've ever really found a girl that had been so genuine to me outside of, some of my like earlier exes who I really do feel like showed up for me in a lot of ways. Or, the one thing too is some of the girls that I've dated in my past before this girl, yeah, definitely in my era where, again, I think I was meeting them and it was really more, I don't want to say transactional, but maybe just a little bit in the sense of, I think I like some of those older partners maybe for different things, right? Maybe it was looks, again, ego, right? I think of some of the partners even more recently, right? The other long distance situation where, you know, it was somebody that was working with me where I'm like, again, transactional, right? It's the stuff that you're doing for me. You know, is it really because I genuinely love you, you know? And I think that's where it really comes down to in that question, right? Of like, why do I want someone? And then when I have them, I don't want them anymore. I don't really know. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like it's really just such a hard thing to think about, you know? And even with this person, right? I'm doing it to her too, you know, in a lot of ways, right? Where like I have it and it's cool, but then I always find something. Again, being long distance is a really big deal. Don't get me wrong. It really is. I know it is. And again, maybe that isn't really truly sustainable. And actually, again, one thing that we have been talking about, and I guess to my point of what I'm really trying to do is take a roll call of all the genuine connections in my life and all the connections in my life in general right now, because to me, that's the part where I feel like I need the most improvement in my life, or where things are kind of changing where I'm like, again, that is my ultimate aim right now. One of my values is I do want to be surrounded by genuinely good people. And if that's what it is, then I need to figure out who's genuine and who's in and who's out, you know? And because if I'm going to make this move or whatever, again, what I guess I'm realizing is when I did that roll call, I think I realized, oh shit, I don't really have a lot of people around me that are aligned to that. Again, they're genuine, don't get me wrong. But again, maybe they're in different modes of their lives, or maybe they got relationships and they've got things that they're doing and they're not that involved in my life anymore. So I think what has transpired from this weekend is, again, a lot of introspection. And again, like I said, it's not like I'm unhappy, but like this last week when I went no contact with this girl and then I started taking a look around my friends here in Arizona, I was just like, oh shit. Like, I'm not really living a life that I'm really excited about right now. Honestly, that's what it comes down to. And I was trying to kind of figure out, why am I not excited? Why am I, feeling this way? Because honestly, I haven't been feeling myself over the last 5 days, like my free, goofy, confident, just like living life, whatever. Like, why am I stuck in the mud right now? For what reason? And maybe it is just a lot of mental changes and things that are happening. And again, a lot of recognition of like, oh shit, like I don't really have that many people to really go to and do stuff with, right? Or people that I just want to do those with. I'm sure there's people I could find, don't get me wrong, but it's not just about finding anyone. You know what I'm saying? So hence also the reason for potentially moving is like, yo, shake things up, get out of it, get into a new environment, meet a whole new Rolodex of people, right? Get myself into a situation where I can get uncomfortable and get out of this routine. I go to the same gym. I do the same things. I'm in the fucking house all the time. You know what I'm saying? Find a new set of species and people. So anyways, I'm feeling this like kind of introspection. I'm feeling this lack of connection, I guess, in my life. And then I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why am I pushing away one of the only connections in my life that I do really feel very content and very whole with? Honestly, that's the truth. Is like, it's just very easy to trust trust her. And that's what I realized about my close friend group too, is, and again, this was in the conversation with Jay as well. Like, the people that I really associate myself with, honestly, swear on everything, like, it's a specific type of person. And this specific type of person is this. Again, it's not flashy. It's not the person that is the hottest in the room. It's not those characters. It's people that are genuinely loyal and people that are genuinely honest and people that are genuinely have my back and people that are, again, genuine in their own right? People that don't fuck people over, people that care about each other, And that's what's crazy is like when I took that realization in of like who I, want to surround myself with, again, dropping that ego, right? I realized, okay, some of the friends and people I have been spending time with in my life don't necessarily want to as much anymore because they don't fill up my cup. I don't feel as good. I don't feel as energized when I'm with them. And then also the connections that I've pushed away, which is, to me, the long distance thing. I think that's what was festering inside of me. I was like, yo, I miss having that genuineness. I miss having that person to rely on. Now, with her, I also do recognize that, again, it is a long distance situation and we do have to be cautious about how we're going to proceed. And what I mean by that is, and this is what I kind of, told her in a way. I was like, obviously I have a path. I have a journey. Like there's stuff that I want to do with my life. And honestly, and I don't know if I'm wrong for this, but this is just how I feel. As the man, as the masculine presence in the relationship, I've got a purpose. I've got a drive. I know what I want. I know the type of, you know what I mean? I want to create content. I want to create podcasts. I want to become an amazing coach, an even better coach. I want to really push myself to new heights. And I'm just recognizing I got to cut the fat and then I got to include the people that are going to be there. But it's all got to be based on honesty. It's all got to be based on people that are genuinely there for me, that are going to show up for me. It's the only way I'm going to get to where I want to go, but also at the same time, enjoy the present moment as well. You know what I'm saying? I cannot enjoy the present moment if I'm surrounding myself with people that are not aligned to me. And so I had this conversation, and again, it's a values thing because again, do I want to date somebody long distance? Not really, no. But if again, do I find genuine people like that all the time? Also, no. You know what I'm saying? Who I look at it and I'm like, she really is real, And again, I always say this all the time. I said, if she was here, it would be a no-brainer for me. But I never really put my effort into it, right? I kind of just said, well, I'm going to value work. I'm going to value my things that I have going on here. I don't need that right now. I just want to work and do my thing. But what I'm recognizing is every time I go off to do that now, I do my thing, it's like I feel sometimes this emptiness. But the reason that I do is because I feel like I'm just exiting without closing the loop. And I think that is the most important thing when it comes to a romantic connection. In terms of leaving somebody based on values, right? I want to talk about that really quick. The thing is, I feel like you just got to be really fucking honest and real. And again, it's not just about running away and dipping. You just at the first sight of what you think is like a value difference. Cause that's what I'm realizing, this being a long distance situation, to me, that's almost like not enough for me to close down the connection completely. What I think I really need to do, and this is what I guess my new approach is, instead of just completely just saying, all right, long distance, fuck it, can't do it. You know what I'm saying? Which is true. But also, again, my other values of like, genuineness, authenticity, love, I'm like, those are there too. And if those are there and those to me, in a weird way, are valued higher, it makes it very difficult. So this is what I decided. I was like, and this goes back to the whole masculine thing, where I'm like, listen, I got a path, and here's the thing, like, the way that I envision my life is this. I'm going to go after it. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to make shit happen. And what I really need to know is like, is this connection, are you the person that is going to be there to support me in that? That is really going to, you know what I'm saying? Because and this is what I told her at the end of the day, I think there will have to become a point where again, that's why I say it's kind of fucked up, because maybe it could be either one of us, but I was just being honest, and what I meant by being honest is this, like, I know what I want to do. Like, whether I go to LA, whether I go to fucking Arizona, whatever, I kind of want the girl in my life to rock with me, to roll with me, to honestly, and I don't know if it's fucked up, but I'm like, I want you to come with me. You know what I'm saying? I want to take you on that journey. And that's the only way it's really going to work. Because to be honest, I'm not going back there. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going back to New York. And maybe that's fucked up. But again, the reason it's not is that it's me being completely honest, right? And this is what I'm talking about, you know, the only way that we're going to be able to distance ourselves properly, and this is what I'm recognizing, the only way that we're going to distance ourselves properly is if we come to an actual mental understanding or actual agreement of why we should not be talking. You know what I'm saying? It can't just be like, all right, I'm not going to make an effort. I'm just going to stop talking to you. Bye. Right? I'm recognizing that that doesn't feel good for me because of how special I believe the connection is. So what I guess I'm trying to say is I'm just being honest about, okay, here's where I'm going. This is what I would like to do. I'm willing to make an effort to make this connection work. I'm willing to make an effort to give you that time and that space to potentially, you know, we could try to build something and then you come along on the journey. But are you ready for that? Do you want that as well? You know what I'm saying? Do you want to follow me where I go and take that risk? But again, I know you're not going to take that risk unless I bring in my effort, right? I got to go back there. I got to show face. I got to make the effort that says, I also do care. I do want things to work. So that's kind of where we're at. You know what I'm saying? And I think this is really important with a romantic connection because again, this is for me, right? As this person that is very avoidant, what I'm recognizing is like communication is just king. You know what I'm saying? Just being really real, not running away from it, but just keep going at the truth. Keep trying to have those conversations be real because what happened is now that I opened up that line of communication, I just said, fuck no contact. It shouldn't be no contact. For a person that I care about, what really should happen, again, especially two people that haven't wronged each other. It's different if like, if homegirl fucking like cheated or did some wild shit to me, again, it fucked me over in any way, or like I just didn't see eye to eye with her on shit, or just like I was just like, I don't know, we also just like value different things or our personalities don't align, then I feel like it would be easy for me to just go no contact. To me, there's a time and a place when you can and when it's easy. And again, if you go back to my last situation, after shit hit the fan, I cut it down. I shut it off, and it just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of did this with this situation a little bit, but it was very hard. It was much harder. It was much different in that sense because I was like, I couldn't point the finger and say, well, we're just so different, or, we're just not aligned. It's like, no, we are actually very aligned, but obviously the situation is difficult. And again, it's okay if that's what it is, right? It's okay if the situation is difficult. But I guess what I'm trying to tell you is just me being really honest about, I think the only way that this, again, emotional weight is going to be taken off my chest, the only way for me to truly go no contact is if I could really sit on solid truth that I did try. I did try to have conversations. I did my best to be as real as possible. And to me, that is really the key in all of this, right? And I think also that has helped me with the connection in my life, or trying to determine which connections are in or they're out. A lot of fucking changes going on. And it's so hard for me to really sit here and explain this to you. And I hope it really makes sense. Again, I'm not really sure if it really is. But to really summarize the shit I've been going through lately is, number one, I think, maybe it's time for a change in the sense of I'm recognizing that I'm hitting my ceiling here, right? I might have to take this move. With that move, I'm also taking a roll call of all the connections in my life and determining, right? Like, I want to surround myself with genuine people. Also, my values are changing. Do I care about having a family? Do I care about, trying to make love work instead of just only making work work? That's a massive one. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of shifting a little bit in my mind, but I don't necessarily know that yet, because the other step that has to happen too is this. Let's say I find this person where I'm like, okay, so this person could be a potential of that. We still have to go and see whether or not, we can coexist for long periods at a time with each other. There's so many more steps that need to get there before family even gets there. So that's why I'm comfortable even saying these things, because I'm like, there's still time for me to like figure that aspect out. So I know I've been bouncing around between like this question, that question. Let's get into the actual question of, why do I want someone, but once I have them, I don't want them anymore? And I mean, I think you're just really asking like, oh, I don't even know. I feel like this is going to sound fucked up, but that is the definition to me of emotionally unavailable. It really is. And I'm gonna be honest, like I'm gonna just speak for my own self. Like that I feel a lot of that. You know, every single person I've ever dated or talked to, right? It's almost just like I want them. And then once, we start moving, it's almost just like, oh, it's not enough, or I want to do something else. Like I said, this is a fucking $1 million question. And here's the other thing too. Like right now, right, I'm going back and forth on this situation constantly. It's hot and cold, and I want to stop that, right? I want to bring consistency to the situation, whether it's in or whether it's out. It needs to be one or the other. But with that being said, of like, why do you want somebody and then you don't? It's like, I think the reason that happens, especially early on in life, and this is what I'm recognizing, is I don't think that you know yourself that well. And truly, maybe you're just not really ready for something that's really that serious and that's that deep. Or to be honest, you just haven't found somebody truly in alignment with exactly what you want yet. Truly. And that's why I said it's so fucking multifaceted and it's so confusing of this question of like, why do you want someone, but when you have them, you don't? I mean, like, are we as humans always going to be, and I don't believe this, because what I think happens is as you kind of get older, again, your values about what you want shift. I think they stop being as, again, egoic, right? I don't know if it's a word. I don't know if it's a word. But what I'm trying to tell you is like the aims that you have at like 20 and like even like right now in some weird way, right? Like I still think about like, oh, money, or like, oh, followers, or you always talk about this all the time, right? Like, oh, that's the gold mine. But is that really the gold mine of life? You know what I'm saying? Is money really the gold mine of life? Is going to the dopest club ever or meeting another hot person the gold mine of life? I think when you don't have it, it probably seems that way. And I think that's what happens is, again, it's just, I think each person that you meet when you're in this state of emotional unavailability, which I think is a lot of people, it's just that next best mentality, right? What's the next goal? Like, what's the next place that you want to visit? A really good example of this would be like, I read this like passage before about this guy who was a writer, and it kind of talks about how, he always wanted more, right? Like his whole thing was like, I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to go to all these different countries. That's what I want out of life. I just want to have experiences. I just want to do it all. And what he does is he takes his writing all over the world. He literally travels the world. He travels to all these different countries. He's going to different places all the time. And what I think he finds out is like, all that stuff is cool, but it never actually fully satiates you. You know what I'm saying? You never actually fully get satisfied. And there's some value, not just in knowing so many things, a little amount, but there's actually some value in knowing one thing really deeply. You get what I'm saying? So like, I think that's a lot of the mentality is like, again, as we're kind of getting older in our relationships, and even for me too, you're exploring, you're reaching new heights. You're always wanting new goals. I'm always pushing myself, right? It's always new heights, new things. I want, to get to the next hottest girl, to the next hottest person, or I've conquered this one. Now I want another one. You know what I'm saying? It's just that mentality. It really is. That's what I think it is. That's why I think that you want what you can't have, or when you get them, you don't want them anymore, is just that right there, right? Is just the allure of something better or something more. And don't get me wrong, it's weird because I think the hard part is when you are going through life, it's weird because I do actually feel like it does get better. And that's the paradox of that shit, which is just like the more you go, it's almost like the more aligned, the better you get, right? The more money, the more status, whatever. You get more resources. You get to do cooler things. But again, it's like, I think it's almost like you have to maybe get some of those things, or at least a taste of some of those things, for you to then recognize. And I guess that's where, again, this shift is now happening internally to me, where it's like, yo, I mean, I've got 1 million followers on TikTok. I reached that goal. I keep saying like, oh, at 150K, oh, at 200K, oh, at 250K, oh, at 300K, then I'll be satisfied. Then I'll be satiated. But that never happens. It never happens. You know what I'm saying? You never get satiated by what it is around you. And I don't know if you need to just get it out of your system. And that's what I'm trying to say. Maybe there's a part of life where it's just time to explore, and it's just time to, it is going to be hard to date you, because to be honest, yeah, if they settle down with you, you're going to kind of feel like you conquered that level, and you want to get to the next one. You know, you want to get to the next level, or you want to get to the next person. And to me, again, I don't think there's necessarily something wrong with that, right? Maybe let's look at it like this. I always give my coaches this example, but I'm going to use it in a different way. Think about like a flower, right? It takes time. It shape shifts, right? It blooms. It goes from being really closed. Maybe it's just like even a stalk at one point, and then it changes, and then it just like blossoms out. But then once it blossoms, it's kind of, you know what I'm saying? I feel like, I guess the analogy is this. Maybe it takes some time for people to get to that point where they fully blossom, and they kind of like, spread their wings a little bit. They experience, having money. They experience having so many different partners, or sleeping around enough where you hit a point where you're just like, all right, I know what I like. I have an idea of what I want, and now I'm comfortable just being at this state. You know what I'm saying? And again, like the example I just gave of like exploring this part or this one person deeper. And I think you need to just maybe get to that part in your life, or you just got to be so excited about the connection. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that is also a really good one too. But again, I don't think that general excitement just lasts forever. So I think what you need to do in this case where you're saying, why do I want someone, but once I have them, I don't want them anymore. I'm going to be honest with you. I think you just need to keep exploring, I think it's a normal feeling, but maybe it's also kind of a feeling of, and again, I don't want to call it ego, but maybe I kind of do. And the reason I say that is it's the ego of not being content with the genuine love that is in front of you. And again, I think maybe just wanting something more, or again, maybe just wanting something for validation, right? You don't feel as validated because the chase is over. You get what I'm saying? But again, how fun really does that become? And again, if you don't experience it, then you don't necessarily know. But if you keep mowing through partners, eventually it hits a point where you're just like, that kind of gets sickening. But then the other thing too is, right, like here's the flip side of the coin. You could be with one person and maybe that gets tiring. You know what I'm saying? You're like, maybe, I kind of want to try being with different people. I was with one person for so long. And this is where life is just kind of crazy. Because again, I really don't think there's one right way to live life. And this is where it's really, life is just so confusing in a lot of ways too, is, because I've met women in their 40s that like, like were in relationships like all the way through their 30s thinking like that's what they wanted, but then they get to their 40s and they now are exploring and now they feel better. Again, I don't know if that ever really goes away. Like I said, what I mean by when I say that, I'm talking about the back and forth of your desires, what you want in life. Like, I don't think it's necessarily wrong for your desires, your wants, your values to change. Like, I think they're just going to change. You know what I'm saying? Maybe right now, again, you're emotionally unavailable and you don't necessarily want a lot of deep connections, or you're dating through ego, but then maybe you do meet somebody and you transcend that, right? But then maybe later in life, you're like, yo, I've transcended that and this feels good, but now I don't want that anymore. And again, who's to say that's wrong? And I guess this is the whole aspect of being non-judgmental to, I guess, this feeling and to the question. And I guess what it is, and I think this is what I was saying in general about the honesty thing, The light that you need in your life is just be fucking real with yourself and the people around you at all times. Because again, your feelings are going to change. Your emotions are going to change. You're going to change. The best thing you could do is just be fucking real and be honest. And I think the hard part is just noticing when those changes are happening and not being afraid of it either. That's what I'm saying. I'm coming on here and I'm telling you guys for the 17,000th time, like I'm going back and forth with this girl. And of course it's like, yeah, it's like, that doesn't necessarily feel good, but this is part of my journey, right? Like every relationship, this is what happens, right? Like sometimes you ebb out and sometimes you flow back in, you know? And there's no right, again, cadence. There's no right, to me, again, the idea of right or wrong, I don't believe there is one. There's just truth in the present moment. And that's all you really have. You don't really have anything else. You really don't. You don't know what the future is going to hold. It's not going to be exactly like your past. It's going to be different. So you can't hold on to that either, right? So you kind of just got to be right here, right now. Be really present with yourself. And again, be really honest with yourself. And that's what I guess I'm saying about this beginning of this podcast is like, I'm recognizing like through this growth of letting go of that judgment that I got to stop preventing myself from doing things just because of the way that other people might judge it or the way that other people might feel about it. Like there's a lot of times where I've held on to conversations with people because I felt that I wasn't being honest to people on a podcast. You know what I'm saying? We're like, oh, I know I'm going to have to talk about it. So like, I don't even want to do that. But maybe internally, like my mind did change or my emotions did shift. You know what I'm saying? My values shifted. Something changed. And instead of like communicating my feelings with people, I would just lock them away. And I realized that doesn't do me any good either. So my whole point is I'm not perfect and I'm growing all the time. I think I'm recognizing that, again, this question about wanting someone and not wanting them anymore. I think I'm still going through that. I think I'm still battling that personally right now where, again, when this person's, when we're no contact, I realize how much I value the connection. And then I go back to the connection. Then I have the connection. And then when I have the connection, I'm almost like, do I really want this? Like, do I really want to be long distance and invest myself? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm always going back and forth on this question. It's fucking hard. I really don't know the answer. I really wish I did. And I'm just trying to explore and talk through it with you right now. But what it really comes down to is I think the right person's just going to end up with you there at the end. Again, I think if it makes sense, this is going to sound like stupid, but if it makes sense, it will just keep happening. You know what I'm saying? You guys will just continue to grow. You guys might go away from each other, whatever. But if it makes sense, you guys will continue to find ways to end up in each other's lives. You guys are going to continue to grow with and without each other. Like that's the other thing too. Like sometimes relationships don't make sense until somebody, needs that growth period by themselves. I can't tell you how many relationship books or, stuff like that I've read where, and again, these are people that are much older, right? Like they're like in their 40s and shit. So they have a lot more life experience, but it will be things like, they meet the girl that they really care about. They recognize that they care about, but then they still want that variety. They still want to, live their life. They go live their life. They go recognizing that I don't really want to live my life. I actually want to live it only with one person. Oh, who do I want to live it with? I want to live it with that one genuine person from my past 4 years ago. Again, you don't really know where the road is really going to take you. You get what I'm saying? So to answer your question, I couldn't tell you exactly why that is. I think eventually you will find somebody where you will continue to connect, or you will connect so deeply that regardless of the space that happens in between, you guys reconnect and things happen, or maybe not. Again, maybe you meet somebody fucking else that you really have a deep connection with. You really don't fucking know. It's all a crapshoot. It's all random, pretty random at the end of the day. But again, the key to success, in my opinion, is just being fully honest with yourself and really trying your heart to relinquish, again, the ego of judging yourself on your feelings. And even if things do change for you, just lean into the truth, lean into your truth and communicate that truth. because to me, that's going to be the only way that you're going to feel consistently at peace. And I guess that's, to summarize what I guess is happening right now is I wasn't feeling at peace over these last 5 days. I'm going through a lot of changes. I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm not feeling connected. And then now I'm going back to this connection because I'm recognizing that my values might be shifting, that I might want something a little bit deeper, that I might want to end up really giving this a chance. But I also want to make sure it's the right situation. I also want to make sure that I'm honest with her with exactly how I feel and with exactly where I'm going in my life, to give her the best chance to be honest and vulnerable with me, to make a better decision. And I think if we make a better decision that both of us are happy for, then we move, right? Whether it's together or whether it's not together, that's okay, right? Again, that doesn't really necessarily matter. My whole thing is, as long as you're being honest with each other, completely vulnerable, you will get to a really good solution. And withholding that, right? Withholding that communication, that's what I'm trying to get better at, is as an avoidant person, is having those communications, is speaking up for myself when my feelings do shift and they do change, right? Like, don't wait 7 weeks, because that's even worse. You know what I'm saying? Okay, for a couple days go by, all right, just say it. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? I'm not perfect, All right. So I do want to get into the difficulties of distancing yourself from people you care about but don't align with anymore. And this is such a cool topic. Because again, this is kind of like, all right, let's talk about it, right? This is the flow of the truth, right? And what I mean by that is, what is the truth? And that's what happens, right? Connections are going to make sense for you in a moment, but maybe 6 months later, they don't. And sometimes it takes you a little bit of time to figure out who somebody is. Sometimes you change. Sometimes you shift. Some friends are meant to be in your life forever. Some friends are meant to be in your life for 15 years. Some friends are meant to be in your life for 5. Some friends are meant to be in your life for 5 months. Some friends are meant to be in your life for 5 weeks. My whole point is we got to flow with our truth of whatever we truly feel. But let's just say we're not really aligned. And honestly, I have a pretty good example of this in my life right now, where there's a few people that I recognize that I kind of had to distance myself from, even though initially when I had this connection, okay, let me just get into it. So, I met this person while I was working out in Scottsdale in the clubs. And to be honest, I've met this person. We hung out all the time and we grew really close. Now, we weren't very close in age. And, the thing with that is just like, again, it doesn't seem like a big deal on the surface, but to be honest, like different points of life, right? Like at one point it was aligned. And what I mean by that is when I was working at that club and I went out there, the reason I started working out at the club was because I didn't feel, again, like I had a lot of connection and friends in my life. This has happened before. And so I was like, all right, you know what? Let me go pick up a security guard job at the club and let's see if I can just meet people. And during that time, don't get me wrong, I had a really good time, but just things were different, right? Like I was still in my era of, all right, I'm just having fun. I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to meet people. I met a lot of girls out there. While I was working out there, I met a lot of cool people. Again, there really are some really, nice, cool people out there. But for the majority, what was happening, right? Like I recognized that by working out there, I'm fucking at work. I'm doing blow every shift. Like I'm just doing shit that, don't get me wrong, like in the moment is fun. Partying is fun too. Like, don't get me wrong. It's cool. I've done my fair share, but I'm hitting a point in my life where, again, right, like things started to shift, right? I didn't want to be doing that stuff anymore. I wanted to be more focused on my work because that's what I valued, right? So then I ended up quitting. But again, this person stayed my friend throughout that, but he continued to work there and he's much younger than me. As time kind of went on, he started to, honestly, I'm just going to keep it real, become addicted to things. And that was really hard for me, because this person that I used to be able to go to the gym with and hang out with and go to do these different events with. Like, don't get me wrong, I still wanted to do some of those things, but it was like now every time we hung out, it was like that stuff was just always involved. It was always like, hey bro, can I use your bathroom? I'm like, bro, it's 7 a.m. Yo, honestly, I was hanging out with this person exclusively almost at like 8 a.m. Over the last like few months of our relationship, because it was just, he was all night benders. You know what I'm saying? Crazy shit. And again, there was a time where it wasn't like that. And there was a time where maybe I actually would have been more open to doing shit like that, to be honest. But again, things change, right? We shift things, I'm at a different place in my life. Like I said, I don't necessarily want to do that stuff anymore, but he's in a place where he's in an exploratory mode. Right? Again, 2 different phases. And it's been hard, right? There's been moments where it's weird now. Like, it really has changed. And honestly, I haven't really said this to him, but the biggest shift that I noticed was, over time, and as he started to move towards these habits and towards these other people, the only time like that we would really hang out, it was almost like when he needed something. And each time when I do see him, it's always just like, hey bro, do me a favor. Hey bro, I need some. It's always he needs something from me. It's never just like, yo, what's up? How are you doing anymore? It's almost just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, he's just caught up in his own world, and it's okay because I know where he's at in his life. I understand that, you could really, really be sucked in when you're at a young age in that environment. But anyways, he's recently got in a little bit of trouble with the law. And what's weird is like, yo, I still am there for him. I help him out. Even when he needs something, and I know that, to be honest, I'm just going to keep it real. Right now, he has nothing to offer me in return, and it's hard. But when you start to recognize that about a relationship, as hard as it is, like, there's times now where I'm like, if he calls me, I'm not going to answer, honestly. And it's weird because of course I want to. And if I see him, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to say hi. And again, if he needs something really badly, I'll be there for him. But it's difficult as fuck. It's really, I'm telling you, because again, when you have such a close relationship and you build such a close relationship with somebody where they're almost like your brother, and then things are just so different, it's like, it's hard because sometimes it's not even worth the conversation, because they're just so in their own world of what they're doing that is so opposite of what you do. And that's what I'm trying to say. For him to understand the things that I understand, or just the way that I see life, is just not there yet. Or again, just maybe never will be. Who knows? My whole point is, as soon as I started to recognize that when I was spending time with him, that I wasn't feeling good, like that was it. Like that's what it is. You have to really recognize, okay, this is the best gauge. For the people that are not aligned with you, you're not going to feel very good after you spend time with them, right? You'll hang out with them. Maybe it's fun in the moment. It can seem fun in the moment. But what happens is afterwards, that icky feeling the next day, or you're really overthinking that connection, to me, that's a really big indication that maybe that person's presence in your life is not actually filling up your cup anymore. They're draining you somehow, whatever it is. And maybe it's been going on for a very long time in your life, if you have a connection in your life where, like I said, like, you kind of just feel this eeriness about being around them, or you kind of just feel almost taken advantage of, or you kind of feel like you're being used by them, you need to lean into that. You need to recognize that, because to me, that does sound like a relationship that maybe you guys are kind of out of alignment. And again, the hard part is like, yo, it could be people you really fucking care about. Really, it could be family. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I have this one coachee, and we work on family boundaries a little bit. Her thing is she's very stressed because she's a people pleaser. And I mean, like, even her family, like, takes advantage. Like her little sister or her brother, I forgot who it was like, hey, can you like get me food? And this girl's working 2 different jobs. She's in the middle of both jobs. She has 3 hours to sleep. And she's like, okay, I'll send you money for food. She's like, no, actually, can you come bring it to me? And she's like, yeah, I guess so. And I'm like, and I asked her, I said, did you really want to do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, did you really have time to do that? And she said, no, I did not have time to do that. Like, I just do it because I care. But I'm like, listen, like, I understand that. But this is what I'm talking about with drawing those lines and drawing those boundaries. You know, you have to recognize when to say no. You have to recognize when them draining you and taking away your energy, you're actually, the problem is you think that you're doing the right thing, but two things are happening when you're continuing to feed into the relationships with people that are not aligned with you. Number one, they're not necessarily learning their lesson, right? First off, the sister needs to understand that she's got to fend for herself a little bit. And by you always doing her the favor, you're not letting her learn that lesson. You're not letting her figure that out for herself. You get what I'm saying? So again, think about me, right? It's like, if I always show up for that friend who is not ever really showing up for me and it's draining me, number one, he's not learning that A, you can't treat people like that. And B, maybe he does got to fuck up a little bit without some guidance, without some help, because maybe he needs to learn some lessons. And then C, the thing is, like, if you're feeling drained and you're not feeling good, right? That's draining you. That's taking away your time. You're essentially saying no to yourself. You're essentially saying no to something that might fill up your cup. And if you're not feeling energized and you're not feeling good, how are you supposed to help and support the other people in your life? You get what I'm saying? You're actually hurting the overall production and happiness of everybody, including yourself. You're hurting your own happiness, which then in turn, think about this. If you're now showing up to work stressed, you're now showing up to work without rest. How are you supposed to help the people that you can at work? How are you supposed to show up and be a good husband or a good father or a good wife or a good girlfriend or a good brother or a good mother or a good sister if you don't feel happy? If you don't feel excited, or again, that connection is not giving back to you as well. So again, is it hard? Yes, but perspective is if I don't distance myself or if I don't speak up for myself, then this will continue to happen. They're never going to learn their lesson. I'm going to feel drained, which then is going to bleed into the rest of my life. So the thing is, I understand it's hard to distance yourself, but this is what I'm talking about being real in your truth. You have to be so honest with yourself about what it is that you value, and you just got to be able to learn to communicate those things or hold those boundaries to those things. You know what I'm saying? And again, when things change and shift, and I think this is what we're talking about today, right? It's when the values shift over time, that's where it gets confusing. That's where you kind of get those relationships that get stuck in the gray area. You get those relationships where you're like, I don't think that I want to be in your life anymore, but it's kind of confusing because I do love you. And there was a time that I loved you, right? Or maybe I still do love you, but there's just something that's funky here or something that has changed for me. What we need to do then is infuse the situation with truth. You either need to tell them your truth about the way that you're feeling about the thing that has changed. Or again, if you're just truly not in alignment and they're draining the fuck out of you, maybe there's time to hold a real boundary and you just got to be stern and strict. And here's the thing. You're not doing something wrong. You know what I'm saying? That's the key. The key is both parties need to be living in their truth. That is the only way both people are genuinely going to be happy. And here's the thing. Think about it from the reverse side. If you knew that your presence was draining somebody else, right? Let's just say honestly, it was draining somebody else and they told that to you, would you want to still spend time with them? Probably not. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to do that to them either. You want them to be in their truth. Okay. If my presence in your life is not making you feel good, then, so be it. I respect that. And again, there's nothing disrespectful about that. And that's what you need, I guess, learn about, distancing yourself about, especially with somebody you care about. Like, if they really truly care about you in return, they'll understand, really. And if they're bitching and complaining that you've changed and that you've distanced yourself, whatever, I mean, listen, it is what it is, honestly. And they might not appreciate it in that moment, but that's the power of authenticity and self-confidence right there. Is you have to have the ability to be misunderstood. That is the only way that you are going to survive and be happy in this life, to be honest. Really, you have to be comfortable being misunderstood. Again, I can't think about my situation with my friend. Listen, I can't rationalize to somebody that is 10 years younger than me that does not have anywhere near the life experience that I do. I could try to explain to him how my feelings till I'm blue in the face, or try to guide him to see the light, right? But I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? I can't transfer that experience. You know what I'm saying? I have to just be comfortable with the fact of like, okay, if I don't answer the phone and he's mad at me, so be it. So be it. Because I have to just be okay with the fact that he just doesn't understand why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to protect my energy, which ultimately is going to be actually more beneficial for both me and him. Because if I'm not there showing up genuinely and happy to be there, I know he doesn't really want that either deep down, even though he doesn't have to say it to me. Again, I don't think any person needs to say it. You get what I'm saying? It's like if they knew that truth, they'd probably be comfortable. Yeah, well, they might be mad at you. Sure, fine, go ahead, be mad. But again, power of being misunderstood. You got to let people be mad. If that's the way that they feel about it, okay, sorry. Again, we're not aligned for a reason. And the reason we're probably not aligned is if you're getting mad at me for me holding a boundary or holding my truth, you don't really respect me that much, or you don't really care about me that much. Think about this. If you truly care about somebody and they turn around and they said that they can't be in that relationship anymore, you would respect their decision, even if it was hard. But it is difficult. Don't get me wrong. It's hard. Not picking up that phone for certain people, having to, serious. I've had conversations with friends where I literally send them a text, hey, I'm going to be honest with you. This friendship for me is really draining myself. And I just want to be honest with you that I don't know if me being in your life right now makes sense for me. I'm going to let you know if that ever changes. I know that sounds crazy and harsh maybe, but it's not. It's just real and honest. It's direct. It's facts. It's non-blaming. You don't need to blame them. You don't need to say, hey, you're doing something that's pissing me off. You just say, hey, for me, this connection doesn't feel good, and I'm just going to keep it real with you. That's how I feel about it. So sorry if I haven't been answering. I'll let you know if, things change for me. I'm telling you, I've had to cut people off. I had to be honest with people. And sometimes your values just don't align. And again, things shift. Your life changes. What you care about is going to change. And like I said, to me, the biggest thing, and we're talking about it right now, which is just living your truth. Know what you value, and try to also understand that it's okay to change. It's okay to change what you value. It's okay to be different than who you were last year. It's okay to be different than who you were last week. That's what I'm saying. I come on this podcast every week, and it's a new feeling. It's a new emotion. It's a new way of thinking. Every single moment I am unfolding and changing. And some people are going to rock with me. Some people are going to continue to listen. Some people are not. Right? That's okay. I can't sit there. Like I said, some people are meant to be in your life for a season. They're not meant to be in your life forever. But at the end of the day, people that are truly in alignment with you and truly care about you, I think those are the people that last the longest because they're willing to be flexible with you. And the people that are open-minded and flexible and accepting, that's the key to creating great connection in your life, is allowing people to change, allowing to not being judgmental and holding people to a certain personality that they have to have. You know what I'm saying? Again, there's no judgment to my friend on what he's doing, but I also understand that right now, maybe we shouldn't be in each other's lives. It doesn't mean that later down the road, like, if homie, things change for him, I'll feel it. I'll know. And then at that point we'll reconnect. That's okay. And this is what we're talking about, the romantic relationships as well, right? We're saying like, okay, sometimes it's just not the time right now. You guys are not in alignment. And again, that could happen to me in this situation, right? We're long distance. Okay, maybe it's just not the time right now. Maybe we'll come to that conclusion. But instead of going no contact and cold turkey cutting you off, why don't we just communicate? Why don't I just tell you about that? And why don't we just get on the same page? And if that's what the same page is, then I don't really want to go no contact. I'd rather just kind of like be your friend from afar, It doesn't need to be like this whole like, oh, you can't say anything, because that feels really fucking stonewall to me. And I'm recognizing like, I kind of want to like stop doing that. Unless, again, like I said, the only way I would want to go no contact with somebody is if I feel like I need to enforce that boundary. I feel like I need to enforce shutting that off. But I also feel like a lot of that can be resolved with really deep honesty, you know? And that's what I guess I'm trying to say is I guess that the upper echelon, if you can get there, right, with this entire thing is just being really fucking direct and real with people as hard as you motherfucking can, you know? It's about the way that you feel about your desires, about what you want, and also say it again tomorrow and say it again the next day and say it again next week because maybe your mind's going to shift and maybe your mind's going to change and just keep doing it. Keep doing it. Spread honesty. Just be real. And that's the best way to distance yourself is be honest with yourself. Recognize that you're not fucking them over. You're actually, it's a gift because you're letting them learn what they need to learn. You're creating happiness for yourself because you're not participating in something that drains your energy, and that gives you the ability to have more energy for the things that you care about. And at the end of the day, that's what we want in a genuine connection anyways, is both people are on the same page. Because that's the only way it really lasts, in my opinion, is we just got to be fucking honest. Woo. All right. That was something. I think it was. I don't really necessarily know. I was all over the place again. But you know me, I'm sitting here, I'm just rambling. You know what I'm saying? I really am. First off, I'm delusional. It's 12:30 at night. Swear to God. That's insane. I'm wearing a tank top, sweatpants. Like I said, just fucking nutted one out on FaceTime right before this. So I guess like, you know, I'm kind of, it's like that post-nut clarity, right? That's where I'm at. Boom. Fireworks. In my sweats. I don't even have underwear on. I'm going to be honest with you. Just commando right now. Fucking Vaseline on my fucking dingling. Just fucking right here. Just giving you guys some real fucking truth. And the truth is this. I'm fucking growing. I'm fucking mowing. The only reason I said that is because it rhymed. And I guess where, to leave this all thing off, right? For me, because I wanted to get back to, and you know me, I'm selfish. So I'm going to start talking about me again. Where I wanted to leave it all off is this. This is where I'm at in my life. I'm happy, right? I'm happy where I'm at. I want to be honest with my connections. I want to create new connections because I recognize as a part of my life that needs some work right now, honest. I need some honesty with this long distance situation. And I think that will make me feel a lot better. Right? I've been journaling a lot. I've been writing down in my journal. I'm like, oh, I miss her so much. But I'm also like, I am pretty far. But then like, I'm like, okay, but why am I just not talking to her about it then? I just got to be honest. So that's what I'm doing. I might move, right? In an effort to get myself uncomfortable. And I hope over the next 3, 4, 5, the next couple weeks, I get back to that mojo of business. Cause I always feel like I'm at a 10 when I'm feeling productive. But I think right now I needed this little moment of like, this like spiritual awakening. I'm going to call it a weak spiritual awakening where, again, I want to continue to let go of the expectations. But again, I also recognize that I can't be happy when I'm holding on to emotional conversations. I can't be happy when I'm not surrounded by love, when I'm not surrounded by or talking to people that I genuinely care about, and honestly making that time for those people is really critical. And again, meeting more people so I could generate more love in my life, because I feel like that will really help my creative juices, which I feel like usually gets very drained when I'm not connecting with people, and especially when I'm not connecting with people that I don't love and I don't like. So that's the new shit right there is, communicate, build that circle of people around you that are genuine and loving, make it strong, make it big. Doesn't need to be big, but it needs to be at least satisfying where you have some people you could rock with. And hopefully you could build some consistency in your life. And again, remember, variety is not always better, but sometimes you need to experience variety to appreciate the solo. And I think that's the shift maybe that I'm potentially going through. But honestly, again, maybe next week, all this goes out the window. So love me for who I am today. Love me for who I am tomorrow. Choice is yours. All right. If you ever want to work with me, you know where to find me. Breakup Bootcamp, newsletter, personality quiz, dating quiz. I probably should go to bed. That's probably what should happen. Okay. I love you. Talk to you guys soon.